spending your evening with me tonight to talk about our beautiful, wonderful art sector and how we can better connect it through data. I think that it's probably best to sort of position myself a little bit more so you can understand how I approach this and where I'm coming from. I am an arts manager, and I have been for the last 20 years. My entire career has been working for national arts organizations, and by doing the work that I have within the arts sector, I've really noticed, namely, the importance of how arts organizations, arts workers, artists need they need greater support, greater capacity to better harness their data. Through Mass Culture, this incredible organization here that I work with, I'm also very grateful to have a job and a job that I love. I am the director of programs and research. It's an organization I helped co-found with a group of other arts leaders who really felt there was a need, a gap within the sector to build up greater infrastructure for research, data, and the flow of knowledge infrastructure. So that's what Mass Culture sets out to do. We work one-on-one with arts organizations to better understand what research inquiries they might have and do a real deep dive with them. Because we're an arts organization ourselves, we feel like we're in a position to be able to do that, as well as the DNA initiative, which I'll get into right now. Maybe you could hop on over there. Great. So I decided to do a short video that you can kind of see the DNA platform, which is one of the two prongs of the DNA initiative. It's now 3 years in the running. Elena is part of our advisory for the DNA project. So thank you for joining us, Elena. What you're seeing here right now is the public-facing dashboard. There are 3 dashboards within this platform, and this is the public-facing one. You'll notice in the top left-hand corner, we have over 4,000 arts organizations in the platform. How we've gone about getting this information is our primary source is through the Canada Revenue Agency's charitable return form, which is called T3010. So every year, if you're a charitable organization, you have to fill this form. And so we did the heavy lifting of pulling arts organizations from around 4,000 of them from the 80,000 charities that are in this data set. So that was work number 1. Then we also recognize, and I'm sure you know, especially after taking part in all the various conversations and having an interest in the arts, I hope, that we couldn't stop there because the sector is much larger than the 44,000 plus charities within Canada. Most of those organizations actually are nonprofits or arts groups or for-profits. So those weren't being represented in the original data set. One of the strategies that we have come up with to get more organizations into this database is through CADAC. Over the last month, is anyone not aware what CADAC is? Does anyone not know? Great, okay. So CADAC is a platform where a number of public arts funders, including the Toronto Arts Council, have got on board to have all of their operating clients submit their financial and statistical data to this platform. It is a reporting platform because it's used as a companion piece for folks who are writing their operating grants, so that you must keep in mind. But it is a pretty unique to the sector in that we're already doing a lot of work in collecting that information from nonprofits. So we have a relationship with CADAC where if we get permission from an arts organization, they can give us their CADAC number, and we have aligned it with the data points from the CRA data. So we're now incorporating nonprofit organizations into this. In addition, we also have a simplified form that an organization can fill out, and we've had a handful of organizations request that, so that they can also be a part of this a platform as well. So it's growing steadily, and we do have over a decade of data in the DNA platform. As I said, there are 2 additional dashboards, which you can click onto the next link if you want, slide. And if you want access, we have created a username and password for all of you. You can use the QR code that will take you to the website, and then just use the username and password to access the 2 other dashboards. These dashboards are more granular. They offer more information. For example, the public-facing doesn't offer municipal information, whereas these 2 other dashboards do. And you'll have seen in the video that we really wanted the main audience for the DNA platform is arts organizations. That is the primary user. However, we found that there's been a lot of pickup from other users, which we can get into. But the primary users are meant to be arts organizations. So in both of the dashboards behind the wall is peer-to-peer, because we really want to encourage and reframe it slightly that arts organizations, instead of working in competition with one another, which we're so used to doing because we're all vying for the same funding, that it's peer-to-peer. So for example, if you want to set a fundraising goal within your organization, then you can use this platform to look up what other like-minded arts organizations, either by the same budget amount, or the artistic discipline, or maybe geographies. You can use that to kind of gauge where you might be also asking, what you might want to be asking for fundraising as well. We've also, because we can do this with the CRA data, disaggregate fundraising activities. So you can also tell how they went about reaching their fundraising goals. One thing that's very unique to the DNA platform that is not in the CRA data is I did the painstaking work of attributing every single 4,000 plus arts organizations in the data set with an artistic discipline. So we created the ontology of because as I'm sure you can imagine, there are many different definitions of what it means when you say arts and culture. So we worked very closely with the arts funders and other stakeholders to develop that ontology, which is constantly evolving, and that's one of the beautiful things about the work that we're doing within the position that we hold at Mass Culture, is we're quite nimble and flexible to adapt. One of the really important pieces about this particular platform is we actually had a beta test to start, just to work with arts organizations to understand what would be the most useful for them to understand the data that's being available. So that's why we've developed the second version. We did it in partnership with an organization that we love called Purpose Analytics. It's on our Shiny, in case any of you are interested in that. And in addition, the work that we've done with Purpose Analytics is created a series of data narratives. So they actually created those for us. So because some of the data you can easily see through an interactive infographic. However, some, I think, require more narrative than that. So for example, if you wanted to do a snapshot of what it's been like over the last decade in Calgary, when it comes to the arts sector, we've created a data narrative for that, just to demonstrate that you can do that kind of work on a municipal level. We also did that for an artistic discipline. We chose dance, and we looked at dance across the country and what were some of the trends and benchmarks that you could arrive at by looking at this data specifically on its own. Just want to go through so one important thing in addition to that is, as you, I'm sure, are aware of, that no data set is perfect, especially when humans are entering the data themselves. And in the case of the T3010 data, a lot of arts organizations auditors are entering the information on their behalf. So there are errors. So what we decided to do is a document that we have in the About section on the DNA platform. It's public facing, you can see it, is called Data Error Flagging and Cleaning Choices. So we have listed all of the organizations where we have found that they have made a mistake. They can contact us and we can fix it for them. And we have also been very transparent in the choices that we've made in how we are cleaning the data and how we are analyzing it. Because there are decisions you have to make when you're looking at these, all these data points, these thousands and thousands of data points, and how to make sure that you're telling an accurate story. So I think that I went through all that parts, and so one of the reasons, I should say, why we have decided to have those two other more granular dashboards that are password protected is because basically we just want to understand who's using it. We are very, as I said, trying to keep our finger on the pulse. Mass culture really believes in evaluation and reflection and learning and adapting from all of the things that we do, either as an organization, but also in concert with other organizations. So we want to understand who's using it and why they're using it, and that's basically it. However, I will say we are looking at this, at how we can make it financially sustainable. I'm sure that's no secret that everyone, once they build these things, how do you maintain them and keep them alive? One of the strategies there to share with you is that we have experimented with licensing with U of T as an academic institution so that they can use this as a teaching tool with their arts management students. So we're seeing how that's working, and then if it's effective, then we might expand that to other universities, colleges, what have you, just to, as one way, one approach, to think about how we might make this sustainable. Yeah, so I think that's it when it comes to the data platform. And I will say that if the data platform is the backbone of the DNA initiative, then certainly the data learning and training that we offer is the lifeblood. If you can go to the next slide. So back in 2023, we put a call out to arts organizations. Had no idea what we were doing and just wanted, but as I said, I was going on this instinct of that data is essential to the sector and better, and that there was an appetite for it. We had about 80 organizations reach out to us who wanted to be part of this cohort that we had designed. We selected 15 of them, and we went through a 10-part learning module. We brought these different organizations together. We intentionally selected organizations that were represented different parts of the country, were from museums, large institutions, rural institutions, different artistic disciplines, and took them through this journey. I learned very quickly that there are different levels of readiness and people need to work at different paces. So I would not go back to offering that same model again. What did work and what was super effective from the cohort was one idea that came up with through the DNA advisory, which Elena is part of, was to pair each of the organizations up with a data coach. So we did that, and that is where real change happened. That is where we started to understand what the pain points of organizations, what they could possibly create, what they could have capacity for. And so we stuck with that, and now we're in our second cohort with a new group of 15 arts organizations. And they instead of offering these modules that where we're bringing people together on a monthly basis online, they are working over a 10-month process, one-on-one with their data coach. And in order to support them, again, as I said, we are really heavy on the evaluation piece. So we are tracking their journeys as they are moving at their own paces. Actually, we have through that work and through some of the open public online offerings that we've had, we've learned so many things of what the sector, arts organizations in particular, are really needing. We have a whole document of data needs from the sector that we've been tracking. One that I wanted to raise with you is something that came up quite a bit was this arts organizations just wanting to better organize their organizational data. It feels kind of obvious, but it's a real pain point. So what we did is we decided to offer a data summer school. I didn't think anyone would come because it's summer and it's beautiful out, and who wants to come to on something online and learn about data like every other week for 2 hours at a time? But again, we had 20 arts organizations sign up to each of the different Data 101 and Data 102. We did that in partnership again with Purpose Analytics and took them through how to just better organize their organizational data. And it was so revealing and interesting to see how they were taking in the information and understanding how they could build it in with their own daily work. Because I am a big believer, because I think one thing that comes up quite a bit is not having the capacity to do this work. But I think that if it's not just in the hands of one person, one staff person, and everyone recognizes in the team, whether small or large, that everyone holds data in one way or another, and everyone should be engaged in how the data strategy is built out and implemented for your arts organization. So Mass Culture also supports arts organizations in developing out their data strategies as well. And of course, it's kind of interesting because this Thursday we're actually having our second DNA Expo. There's over 300 people registered. We're taking people all the way from forming your data direction into storming, coming up with cultural indicators, norming data, empowering your data by doing some foresight work, and then evaluating, using data to evaluate. And we're specifically using fundraising readiness, so using data to understand your fundraising readiness. So that's a workshop, a day-long workshop that we are offering on Thursday. And as I said, there seems to be a lot of appetite and interest in doing this type of work. And let me just make sure I'm getting all of, yeah. Okay, so one of the big things that has come out of all of this, and even before the DNA project even existed, Mass Culture was really being guided and led by helping arts organizations better understand their impact. And this certainly is one way of doing that, but it's sort of a yes and. So the other component of this that we've been working on for far longer is understanding, helping arts organizations understanding their impact through qualitative means. So I just wanted to touch base on that a little bit with all of you because I think they're so intertwined with one another that it's important not to just understand the quantitative data, but also the qualitative data that's super important, so that we're not just focused on the econometrics. And I wanted to make sure that all of you were aware that we're multifaceted in that way. So, take that. So this is something that we've built. It's called our learning framework. It helps us work with arts organizations to build out their data strategies or also their evaluation frameworks, what they hope to learn. And it starts, even though it's linear, I would say you end up jumping all over the place, but it's organized in this way so that you can have a clear understanding of what all of the different steps are that are required. And so really the first thing is just helping arts organizations understand what areas of impact matter to them so that we, and as I said before, aren't beholden to what our funders are simply asking of us, but what we want to know, the impact that we bring through the activities that we're offering, and coming up with a strategy using data and reflection to understand whether or not we're actually making that impact or not. So that's something we're really trying to drive as well as an organization. And so this kind of takes organizations through developing the impact strategy, unearthing why they are arriving at those impact strategies, coming up with indicators and questions. Questions seem to be the hardest thing for folks to really, create, but we're learning on how to better do that. And then the collection mechanisms, the engagement and analysis, and then also how you're going to go about sharing that information. So this is something that we have on our website. You can download it. This visual was created by an artist called Harmeet Rayal, and there's also the Excel spreadsheet version too for those who don't want to use the artistic version. But yeah, so I guess next slide, just to kind of recap why we're doing this work and why we think it's so important. It's really guided by these three sort of guideposts. The first being field-led data building, emphasizing that those closest to the work should drive the data efforts. I am such a big believer that if you want to have good data, you have to make sure that the people who are on the ground, who are actually doing the work, have the tools and capacity and support to do this process themselves. Secondly, capacity building for learning and adaptation, not just reporting. I said this before, but I just think it's very important to kind of shift that mindset, how important it is for arts organizations and arts workers to really make a commitment and see the value in doing this work, because it is work. I've never lied about that. It does require some hours and time and dedication to doing this work. But I think in the long run, it provides greater efficiencies within arts organizations to do this work. And then thirdly, equity-centered learning. I think that this process that I kind of quickly breeze through in the learning framework really offers multiple entry points to include a multitude of voices in your process. And I think we have a tendency within the arts sector to engage folks through surveys or interviews or focus groups when you can actually engage those voices you don't normally engage in. What are the impact areas? What questions should we even be asking you? So there's so many different opportunities, I think, by opening this up and intentionally carving out space for it to ensure that this work is equity-centered. I also, because we have this event coming up and we're of course asking folks what they hope to learn by doing this work, I wanted to share with you just 7 quick bullet points of what some folks have shared, because I have, as I've been reading through it, noticed that there are patterns and things that I think are coming up that I think I just wanted to draw your attention to. So, one of them is honing cultural indicators, data analytics, and interpretation skills. The second is collecting the data that will help craft a meaningful impact story and inform decision-making. The third is establishing practices to analyze and share data on a regular basis. And the fourth is getting the organization to value data when making decisions. The next one is interpreting data in a way that will be relevant and meaningful for the communities I am and I'm not a part of. The next one is how to find metrics that justify the community cultural work that I do. And finally, how best to use data in a small shop with limited data capacity and expertise. So as you can see in some of those examples that I just shared with you, there's a real clear indication to me that there is an appetite to do this work and to do it in-house themselves, not to outsource it. Also, I think that it indicates that there is an awareness that there is a data cycle involved in this, that it's not a quick and easy fix, that there is a commitment involved. So I guess finally what I want to just share is a couple of things for the future. I also have questions that I wanted to throw out at all of you, and hopefully you have questions for me. But one thing I just wanted to bring to your attention, as we're getting more and more involved in all this work, it's very, very clear, and we're probably overdue. We need to create a data governance guide. There is a real desire within the sector to not just better harness their data, but understand the ethics and the principles behind doing this work. So Mass Culture has gone ahead and we have started to build out this data governance guide for ourselves as an organization with the full intention of turning that outward and sharing it with the sector, and then coming up with the strategies to engage the art sector in what it includes, and paying really close attention to what might feel transferable to other arts organizations and be adopted, so that we can then ripple that out and share what feels transferable and useful to the sector overall, and where there still might be gaps. So that is one major thing I just wanted to share with you in terms of what our future plans hold. We of course have tons of them, and there are lots of things on our wish list for the DNA platform that we would love to include and add. Those qualitative indicators that I told you that we're currently working on, we would love one day, once those are verified and made credible by the sector, to include those data points into the DNA platform. One of the things that we're doing, which I should also share as a future plan, is I am a co-director and Mass Culture is a partner on a project called the Arts Impact Partnership. It's a 7-year SSHRC grant, so that we have the 7 years to work across international route truly, but a lot of the partners are here in Canada, both on the academic and art sector side, to really dive in deeply on what those frameworks and indicators might include, so that we can better understand how art intersects with climate change, how it intersects with migration and integration, equity, and then also health and well-being. So I guess I'll leave it there. I can ask the questions now, I guess. But also if anyone has a burning question. Did I take up too much time? I didn't even keep track.
Oh no, it's all right, it's all right.
Okay, good.
Yes, we'll be okay.
Okay. So, of course, one thing I'm really curious, and I'm always bugging Purpose Analytics about this, but would love to hear from you as well. We're always looking for other data sets and strategies to make it more user-friendly, but also what can we triangulate? What other data sets? What can we use from StatsCan or Census or, I don't know, other data sets that you're aware of that we could incorporate or kind of make it interoperable, so that these things are talking to each other. There's a use case, and I've had conversations with Khadija about this briefly before we started, but what would it take to use DNA sector data alongside municipal, spatial, and economic data sets to reframe art space as cultural infrastructure rather than scarcity? What kinds of planning or investment decisions could that enable? So really interested in understanding cultural infrastructure much more robustly than what we currently have in the DNA platform, which is one kind of question that we're using on whether arts organizations own or rent their space. That's all we have right now. There's just so much more information that we could gather. We also have their well, actually we don't, but because we have their postal codes so it might be telling us where they are actually located, but it also could not. So we don't know that for sure. Also, of course, super curious on how AI can help to support the work that we're doing. So it's just making it super easy and accessible for arts organizations to use the data that we have, maybe as a complement to their own organizational data or other data sets. And strategies on how to incentivize arts organizations to share their data with us. That's always an uphill battle, and something we're always thinking about in terms of strategies that aren't going to be too labor intensive for arts organizations. So yeah, I'll leave it at that. Thank you, everyone.
Well, I was wondering, in looking at your data from the T3010s, what the top level story is for fundraising revenue among arts organizations. So as an organization gets bigger, how does the proportion of their money that comes from fundraising change? And as you go through different regions, how does that proportion change?
Oh, you're asking me a question without being able to look at the data, but I can tell off the top of my head that obviously it also depends on the size of the budget size. I don't like really using smaller or big to define whether an arts organization has a big budget or small budget, but there you go. I think everyone knows what I mean. I would say, obviously, if you are in a urban area, and when you're asking about fundraising, are you asking about public funding as well as, or just fundraising in general, from donations and sponsorships, or?
No government.
No government, okay. So what's been really interesting, I will say, insight, is because we have data from 2013 to 2023, you can see what the pandemic has done to fundraising, which has had a sharp decline and has not gone back up since the pandemic has happened. So that is certainly one indicator. I would say that the larger organizations have better success rate at fundraising than the smaller ones do. But of course there are exceptions to that rule when there are some small organizations that have a real community buy-in. Maybe some of the organizations in here are just those charities that have been opened by a group of parents who want to support their kids in band in school, and so of course they're doing really well in terms of fundraising because those parents are out there soliciting donations all of the time. So it's hard to give you like a hard and fast answer to that, but hopefully that gives you a bit of an idea. And I would say isn't one province more than the other that in terms of fundraising where there's a huge difference amongst them. So yeah. But I could be proven wrong when you look at the data and tell me I'm wrong. So that's from what I remember. Any other questions or comments? Yeah.
Why don't I shout and then maybe you repeat the question?
Okay.
So you had said that it's necessary and more valuable for the data collection to be driven by people internal to the organization,
Yes.
which is super valid. A lot of the arts organizations and artists that I'm aware of, they're super oversubscribed. They're doing everything, right? What things make it easier or possible for these individuals or the organizations to collect this data, given that they're already doing all these other things?
So one of the best answers I've ever heard for that question was actually from Daniel Liatsky from Purpose Analytics, who was asked the very same thing at this data summit that took part in October. And he said, remember back in the day when social media was just starting, and all of a sudden everyone had to scramble and find someone within their small arts organization that was going to be their social media person? Well, guess what? Everyone figured it out and is doing it now. So I do think that if we really keep spouting it out and saying how important it is to better harness your own data, to better understand the value that you bring to your communities, whether that's other artists, societal, what have you, then I think that people will make time for these things. And I do think that we are already doing some of this work within our organizations. We're already collecting feedback surveys. We're already kind of keeping track of information and having to report on it to our funders. So it's not a big ask. And I do think that a lot of this work, especially the reflection and coming up with the right questions to ask, is inherent within us. We just have to be brave enough and have the data confidence to do that. So I do think it's possible. As another strategy, and this is why I believe that mass culture is so important, is because we can act as that critical friend. We can be that capacity builder and supporter for organizations who just don't have the time to fit it in. As an example, one of our organizations that was in our first cohort, Brampton Arts Organization, they worked with a data coach to build out an annual survey. They went through the whole process, and they just came to us the other day because They want to continue to do the longitudinal information, but they just don't have the capacity to do the data analysis. So they asked us if we could help them with that. So we're doing that as a small contract for them. So there's all sorts of different ways we can find ways of working together, and it's finding and then also creating a whole repository. We have, I think, about 100 data coaches in our repository of people we can reach out to and ask to help support organizations if we don't feel like we have the expertise or the time to do it. So yeah.
Thank you so much, Ashish, and thank you, Robin, for that excellent talk. I was just wondering if you could talk a little bit more about how the project, the Arts Impact Project, will help arts organizations tell their own impact stories, especially around issues like climate, equity, migration, and well-being are so broad. And how do they connect that to the arts organization's own practice in a way that's kind of authentic and useful?
That's a great question. So just as the DNA project was starting, another project that Mass Culture was working on was called Research in Residence Art Civic Impact. Toronto Arts Council was actually a part of it. There were a lot of other funders who also took part. We brought on a whole team of researchers. We put them in residence with another arts organization. So for example, Emma, who's at Dalhousie, was in residence with Creative PEI, and she really wanted to focus on where art intersects with environmental issues. And because of she had the time to spend with them, understand their needs, their interests, she built out a series, I think, for over 40 indicators. So this whole framework is made up of these 40 indicators where arts organizations are encouraged to take the indicators that they think would align with what they're wanting to know, kind of like an a la carte type thing, and create their own customized framework when it comes to understanding how their artistic work is having an impact or not on environmental issues. So that is a work that we did, and because of that, it helped provide a foundation for this 7-year SURE grant that we now have, so we can expand upon that work. Because I'm sure, as it's no secret, there is so much more work to do in that space. Another thing that I think is really important as part of that work is not just creating the indicators, but testing them with the sector. So as a second part to what Emma created, we put her in, we paired her up with an arts organization in BC, and she worked closely with them over a 10-month process to help them decide what indicators they wanted to use and how they wanted to use them to understand the impact of their work. So to answer your question, Elena, I guess the intention behind that particular project is to take some of the guesswork out of arts organizations having to devise their own indicators and the questions that they might want to ask around them, because we have created a series of frameworks, not a single one, not a standardized one, I want to stay away from that, but a series of frameworks that people can use, take what they will, and use the indicators that they want to understand their impact. And then I want to be able to understand and track which ones are being used the most, and how we might be able to inform the folks, for example, the funders who are holding CADAC, to encourage them to include some of those indicators in CADAC. So we're collecting those statistics there in the information. So that's sort of, hopefully that answers your question, Elena, on how the process goes about doing that. But of course, I'm super curious always on how we can work one-on-one with arts organizations to help them come up with their own impact areas and have that trickle upwards to funders and government to inform them on what they should be paying attention to in terms of impact. I will share, I'm probably going on and on, sorry to cut me off if you need to. Anyways, I'll keep going. So, we worked with this group of arts organizations in Kelowna, BC, and we worked, the main focus on the first of 2 workshops was to help them understand what impact areas matter to them. And we did that through a series of exercises to tease that out. And as something that I think happened that surprised me but shouldn't have, was a lot of people wanted to have impact that focused around how to increase their funding. But that's not really impact. However, one of the organizations decided what their impact area that they wanted to measure over time was increasing harmony. How their organization was increasing harmony in the people that they were doing their activities for. And that totally blew my mind and made me gave me all the faith in the world that this work is possible. And so the next step that we worked with on that group is how do you go about measuring increasing harmony? Because that is possible. It is possible 100%. It's just giving them the know-how, the tools, and the process on how to go about doing that. So yeah, just a little story there. So yeah.
And of course we'll be having a main presenter breakout after this as well from 8 to 9. And we'll also be telling the room for that as well, but you can ask all your questions and give all your suggestions towards Robin, both online and in person, in that breakout as well. But for now, can we get a round of applause for Robin?